Hi everyone, so today we're doing chapter 30 and chapter 31 of Black Beauty. We finished chapter 29 yesterday and then there'll be a quiz on Purple Mash for you to have a go at. So, let's start. 30. A thief. My new master was an unmarried man. He lived at Bath and was much engaged in business. His doctor advised him to take horse exercise, and for this purpose he bought me. He hired a stable a short distance from his lodgings and engaged a man named Filcher as a groom. My master knew very little about horses, but he treated me well, and I should have had a good and easy place but for circumstances of which he was ignorant. He offered the best hay, with plenty of oats, crushed beans, and bran, with vetches on ryegrass, as the man might think needful. I heard the master give the order, so I knew there was plenty of good food, and I thought I was well off. For a few days all went well. I found that my groom understood his business. He kept the stable clean and airy, and he groomed me thoroughly, and was never otherwise than gentle. He had been a hostler in one of the great hotels in Bath. He had given that up and now cultivated fruit and vegetables for the market, and his wife bred and fattened poultry and rabbits for sale. After a while it seemed to me that my oats came very short. I had the beans, but the bran was mixed with them instead of oats, of which there were very few, certainly not more than a quarter of what there should have been. In 2 or 3 weeks this began to tell upon my strength and spirits. The grass food, though very good, was not the thing to keep up my condition without corn. However, I could not complain nor make known my wants, so it went on for about 2 months, and I wondered that my master did not see that something was the matter. However, one afternoon he rode out into the country to see a friend of his, a gentleman farmer who lived on the road to Wells. This gentleman had a very quick eye for horses, and after he had welcomed his friend, he said, casting his eye over to me, "It seems to me, Barry, that your horse does not look so well as he did when you first had him. Has he been well?" "Yes, I believe so," said my master, "but he is not nearly so lively as he was. My groom tells me that horses are always dull and weak in the autumn, and that I must expect it." "Autumn? Fiddlesticks," said the farmer. "Why, this is only August, and with your light work and good food he ought not to go down like this, even if it was autumn. How do you feed him?" My master told him. The other shook his head slowly and began to feel me all over. "I can't say who eats your corn, my dear fellow, but I'm much mistaken if your horse gets it. Have you ridden very fast?" "No, very gently." "Then just put your hand here," he said, passing his hand over my neck and shoulder. "He is as warm and damp as a horse that had just come from grass. I advise you to look into your stable a little more. I hate to be suspicious, and thank heaven I have no cause to be, for I can trust my men, present or absent, but there are mean scoundrels wicked enough to rob a dumb beast of his food. You must look into it." And for this, when he says dumb, he means that Black Beauty can't talk, so we can't tell on him. And turning to this man who had come to take me, "Give this horse a right good feed of bruised oats, and don't stint him." "Dumb beasts! Yes, we are, but if I could have spoken, I could have told my master where his oats went to. My groom used to come every morning about 6 o'clock, and with him a little boy, who always had a covered basket with him. He used to go with his father into the harness room where the corn was kept, and I could see them, when the door stood ajar, fill a little bag with oats out of the bin, and then he used to be off. 5 or 6 mornings after this, just as the boy had left, the stable door was pushed open, and a policeman walked in, holding a child tight by the arm. Another policeman followed and locked the door on the inside, saying, 'Show me the place where your father keeps his rabbit food.' The boy looked very frightened and began to cry, but there was no escape, and he led the way to the corn bin. Here the policeman found another empty bag like that which was found full of oats in the boy's basket. Filcher was cleaning my feet at the time, but they soon saw him, and though he blustered a good deal, they walked him off to the lock-up, and this boy with him. I heard afterwards that the boy was not held to be guilty, but the man was sentenced to prison for 2 months. So, in chapter 30, we see how important it is to feed horses well, particularly if they're being used often for riding and driving and things. Oats are the main food that'll keep them lively. So, chapter 31, a humbug. My master was not immediately suited, but in a few days my new groom came. He was a tall, good-looking fellow enough, but if there was a humbug in the shape of a groom, Alfred Smirk was that man. He was very civil to me and never used me ill. In fact, he did a great deal of stroking and patting when his master was there to see it. He always brushed my mane and tail with water and my hoofs with oil before he brought me to the door to make me look smart. But as to cleaning my feet or looking to my shoes or grooming me thoroughly, he thought no more of that than if I had been a cow. He left me my bit rusty, my saddle damp, and my crupper stiff. Alfred Smirk considered himself very handsome. He spent a great deal of time about his hair, whiskers, and necktie before a little looking-glass in the harness room. When his master was speaking to him, it was always yes, sir, touching his hat at every word, and everyone thought he was a very nice young man. That Mr. Barry was very fortunate to meet him. I should say that he was the laziest, most conceited fellow I ever came near. Of course, it was a great thing not to be ill-used, but then a horse wants more than that. I had a loose box and might have been very comfortable if he had not been too indolent to clean it out. He never took all the straw away, and the smell from what lay underneath was very bad, while the strong vapours that rose made my eyes smart and inflame, and I did not feel the same appetite for my food. One day his master came in and said, Alfred, the stable smells rather strong. Should you not give that stall a good scrub and throw down plenty of water? Well, sir, he said, touching his cap, I'll do so if you please, sir, but it's rather dangerous, sir, throwing down water on a horse's box. They're very apt to take cold, sir. I should not like to do him an injury, but I'll do it if you please, sir. Well, said his master, I should not like him to take cold, but I don't like the smell of his stable. Do you think the drains are all right? Well, sir, now you mention it, I think the drain does sometimes send back a smell. There may be something wrong, sir. Then send for the bricklayer and have it seen to, said his master. Yes, sir, I will. The bricklayer came and pulled up a great many bricks, but found nothing amiss, so he put down some lime and charged the master 5 shillings, and the smell in my box was as bad as ever. But that was not all. Standing as I did on a quantity of moist straw, my feet grew unhealthy and tender, and the master used to say, I don't know what's the matter with this horse. He goes very fumble-footed. I'm sometimes afraid he will stumble. Yes, sir, said Alfred. I've noticed the same myself when I've exercised him. Now, the fact was that he hardly ever did exercise me, and when the master was busy, I often stood for days together without stretching my legs at all, and yet being fed just as high as I were if I were at hard work. This often disordered my health and made me sometimes heavy and dull, but more often restless and feverish. He never even gave me a meal of green food or a bran mash, which would have cooled me, for he was altogether as ignorant as he was conceited. And then instead of exercise or change of food, I had to take horse balls and draughts, which, beside the nuisance of having them poured down my throat, used to make me feel ill and uncomfortable. One day my feet were so tender that, trotting over some fresh stones with my master on my back, I made 2 such serious stumbles that, as he came down Lansdowne into the city, he stopped at the farrier's and asked him to see what was the matter with me. The man took up my feet one by one and examined them, and then, standing up and dusting his hands against one another, he said, Your horse has got thrush, and badly too. His feet are very tender. It is fortunate that he has not been down. I wonder your groom has not seen to it before. This is the sort of thing we find in foul stables, where the litter is never properly cleaned out. If you'll send him here tomorrow, I will attend to the hoof, and I will direct your man on how to apply the liniment which I will give him. The next day I had my feet thoroughly cleansed and stuffed with tow soaked in some strong lotion, and an unpleasant business it was. The farrier ordered all the litter to be taken out my box day by day, and the floor kept very clean. Then I was to have bran mashes, a little green food, and not so much corn, till my feet were well again. With this treatment I soon regained my spirits, but Mr. Barry was so much disgusted at being twice deceived by his grooms that he was determined to give up keeping a horse, and to hire when he wanted one. I was therefore kept till my feet were quite sound, and was then sold again. So there we have it. Black Beauty's been sold again. So we wonder where he'll end up this time. But it looks like he's had 2 more unpleasant incidents with people. I'll do another quiz on Purple Mash. So make sure you head over there and have a look at that and see whether or not you can get all of the answers correct. It'll be a true and false questionnaire. And then we'll look at maybe doing some sequencing the next day. But this is led up perfectly because we've now finished part 2 of the book and we'll be moving on to part 3 tomorrow. See you then.